Right. Okay, welcome once again for this webinar series. We are in the fifth session of Archicad Now for Engineers webinar series. As we all know, this webinar series, we are concentrating more on the structural engineering discipline. That is the workflow to create the structural BIM model and the subsequent workflows of detailing and documentation, and then preparing the layouts for submission. So we are concentrating more on structural engineering in this discipline, but the workflows that we share here can also be applied for architectural discipline. Say, for example, the model view options or the graphic overrides and the pen sets can be changed, and the same workflow can be applied for architectural discipline also. So at this point, I would like to highlight that this webinar series is more towards structural discipline and implementation of Archicad for creating the structural BIM model and the subsequent processes of submissions and all that. For people who have not watched the previous sessions, I would recommend to watch the previous sessions. We have published the webinar recordings in our Graphisoft Singapore YouTube channel. So please use this QR code, and you can also use the tiny URL that is shown on the screen right now, and then watch the videos. So on this session, that is on the fifth session, we are going to see the detailing and the documentation for structural BIM project in Archicad. But before that, in the previous Q&A session, there was a request to show the integrated modeling concepts between the Archi and structural team. So we have decided to show the demo of it, to show the integrated modeling concepts between Archi and structural team using the teamwork features of our BIM cloud. So for that, myself and Rima will be showing the demo here. Rima will be playing the role of an architect. So I'll be coming in as a structural modeler once when she shares the project in the BIM cloud, and then I'll be joining the same project. And then after that, the workflows, how the model is being managed or how the model is being created from there will be shown in the demo. So yeah, so let me go to the demo. All right, so on the screen that is shown on left will be mine. So the screen that is shown on right will be Rima's. So she's currently opened a empty project here. She'll be modeling there. So once when she arrives at a stage where she is ready to share the project with the structural team, she'll share it in the BIM cloud. So then I'll join it. So you can see she is placing the columns. So we are just going to show a simple model here, show the workflow. So she is placing the columns now. So she is going to place the walls. She is going to use the continuous or the square geometry method, and then she's choosing the opposite ends. All right, she is placing partition walls in between. So she is choosing the straight line geometry method. All right, she's going to the story one, and then she's going to reference the first story here to place the beams, I mean, to place the slab. So yeah, so she has modeled it. So now she'll be sharing this with the teamwork project using the BIM cloud. So she's going to teamwork project share. Rima, can you bring it to the center? Yeah. So she is choosing a folder inside the teamwork, I mean, inside the BIM cloud, and then she is giving a name, and then she is clicking share. So now the model is shared with BIM cloud. So I'll join the same project. So I'm going inside my project here and teamwork project, open or join teamwork project. So here I'll go to the same folder where she shared the model and choose the same model here and then click join. All right. So in the teamwork palette, you can see both of us. Yeah, so on the users list, you guys can see both myself and Rima here. So if I go here and change, okay, so first I'll change the partial structural display to core of load bearing elements only. Okay, if I do that, you can see that there is nothing in my model. All right. So that is because we are not having any load bearing load bearing element in our model. So I'll go back to the entire model. I'll go to 3D. In this, I just wanted to select only the columns. So I select the column here and then click Control A. And you can see that I have selected all the column and I wanted to go to the settings of the column. And then inside here, structural analytical parameters, I will select the structural function as load bearing element. Okay, so after that I can just select standard or axial force only. So all these options we have explained previously in the webinar series, like in the episode 3 or 2. So you can enter all these details here. Okay, so I just click OK for now, making it load bearing element. Okay, and one more thing I wanted to do is I want to select the slab also and then make it a load bearing element. So structural analytical parameters and choose load bearing element and then click OK. As you can see here, I'm not reserving the components here since these components are all free for reservation. So I can just start using it in BIM Cloud as a service. But in BIM Cloud, you need to first reserve it before using it or before editing it. But since this is a BIM Cloud as a service, we have advanced team working features where the components that are free for editing will be automatically reserved when I start editing it. Okay. So now if you can see show reservation by users, you can see the green color, which is reserved by me, the slab. The column is also reserved by me. So it is green in color. The blue color walls are not reserved by anyone. But if Rima reserves it, it will be showing in pink color. Can you reserve the walls, Rima?
Can you
Are
send
you?
and receive email?
Yeah. Okay, now I guess it's not reserved by anyone. So the slab is also free for reservation. So let me reserve it. I think Rima, you will not be able to reserve because this project is currently on my folder. So I think you don't have access to it. You can just share the projects. So maybe that's the reason. Yeah. Okay. So I'll just go to show all in original colors and I go to document, partial structural display. I'll choose core of load bearing elements only and click OK. So you can see I'm able to see only the structural BIM model. So on the other hand, Rima is able to see the whole architectural model, which has the walls, the partition walls inside, but I'm just seeing the structural BIM model. Okay. So now if I want to do any changes, say for example, I go to the first story here or the ground story, and if I want to place a column anywhere in between, so I can place the column probably here. I need to make sure it is the structural load bearing element. Okay. So after this, if I send and receive, yeah, Rima, can you send and receive and show the changes? Yeah, you can see that there is a column there in between, which I placed here. So in this way, structural engineer and the architects can work on the same project, but the information that they see on their model will be depending on the settings that they do. So for example, I'm using the partial structural display core of load bearing elements only, so I'm only seeing the structural components, structural model here. Okay, so even in 2D, if I go here and change the partial structural display of to core of load bearing elements only, I can see only the columns in story ground floor. So if I go to story 1, I can see the slab also, and I can see the columns below. Okay, so this is how engineers and structural the architects teams can work on the same project. So I think this is clear. So I will go back to the presentation. Thanks, Rima, for joining me. All right.
Thanks, Manoj.
Sure. So for today, we are going to continue with the detailing and documentation for our structural BIM model, which we have prepared in the previous sessions. So we are going to do the dimensioning for it on the GA plans, and we are going to use the ID manager to assign different IDs or unique ID for different components. And then we are going to use the label tools to mark the IDs of components and then the dimensions of it. And finally, we'll create details using two different methods, which I'll show you during the demo. Okay, so let me go back to my model. So all right, so this is the model that we have been using it for like from the first week. So we have created this. Let me go back to no overrides. So this is the model we created the previous session. So I'm using the same model for this demo. So I will go to this story 1 top reinforcement. All right, so now I'll do the dimensioning. For dimensioning, go to document. Under document, we have dimension tool in our toolbar. Just choose it, and I will use the linear on the continuous method, on the construction method, sorry. So I just snap it. I'm going to show the dimensions for the grid lines. All right. Okay, so I've placed the dimensions here. If you don't want the text handles around the dimension text, we can go to view, on-screen view options, and then switch off this text box handles. Okay, so the text box handles has been removed. All right, so this is one way of placing the dimensions. And if you want to place automatic dimensions around the walls, just select the wall. So I just remove the suspend groups, so I can select all the walls. I'm choosing the exterior wall, and then go to document, annotation, automatic dimensioning, and then choose exterior dimension. Okay, so inside here, inside the automatic dimensioning dialog box, we have different options. So the options are represented in the diagram, so you can refer from that. So for this demo, I'm just going to use overall dimension and the dimension structures. So I'm not going to have any opening, so I'm not using the dimension opening. And I also don't want to have the external dimension geometry. Okay. So if you see here, dimension walls by outer faces or core faces. This is very important when you are working on integrated model, just the one which we showed previously. So if you are working on the integrated model, if you give outer faces, it will dimension the outer faces. But since we are having this as a structural model, we wanted to have the dimensions showing only the core faces. So I'm choosing the core faces here and giving an option of distance between dimension lines 500, and then I just check this place dimensions on 4 sides. Okay, and then click OK. So here we are prompted to click an element to define the dimension direction. So I just choose this dimension line to define the direction, and then I place the dimension lines. Okay, so you can see on all 4 sides dimension lines are placed. Okay, so let me do it one more time for the interior wall. Just select the wall, go to document, annotations, automatic dimensioning, and exterior wall. I'm having the same settings that we had previously, and then click OK. Select the direction of dimension line. I just choose the previous dimension line that we drew, and then place the dimension line. You can see it shows all the dimension automatically. So this is how we can create the automatic dimensions around the exterior walls, around the walls. Okay. So having seen that, we will see how to create label, how to use the label tools to show the thickness of the slab and also the just a minute. Let me go to structural model view options. Only then I can differentiate the slabs here. So these are different slabs with the connection is shown clearly on the structural plan. So I'm going to that. So I'm going to the label tool. I'm going to use this label load bearing symbol, which shows this thickness and also the load bearing symbol, whether it is one-way or two-way slab. So for that, I need to select this and then let me place it on one of the slabs. Okay, so as you can see here, I have placed it on this slab. It is a 150 thick slab. So here the thickness is 150, you can see from the top, and it's currently showing the two-way slab. But if you want to change it, just go select the label and then go to the settings and go to symbol label custom settings, and here symbol type is two-way. If you want to change it, I can make it one-way vertical, one-way horizontal, or cantilever to the right or cantilever to the left. So I just use one-way horizontal here and click OK. So now you can see that the label has been changed. Okay, so this is manual way of placing the labels. But if I want to place automatically for all the slabs, what I do is I just select the dimension tool and make sure this is selected, and then I select all the slabs in this layout. So for that, choose the slab tool and click Control A. So I'm able to select all the slabs. Again, go to document, annotations, label selected elements. Okay, so it's document, annotations, label selected elements. So you can see automatically all the slabs. Currently we have 4 slabs here. One is the exterior slab, so for which we have 80 thick, and then we have the symbol here. Also for these 3 slabs, and the other slab is this one, which is having a 150 thick, and then the symbol. So just click escape, and if you want to select and change for individual slabs the symbol type, we can go and change it. By default it is two-way always. Okay, so this is how we can mark the slabs. So now if I want to mark the columns, I need to give all the columns a unique ID. So currently this column is having C01, which is the ID, element ID. So for the other column, if I check, which is also C01. but I don't want this to be like this. So I want it to be unique for each column. So for that, I'm going to use the ID manager, element ID manager. So for that, I'm just selecting the column tool here and click Control A to select all the columns. So all the columns are got selected. These are the steel columns that we placed earlier in previous sessions. All right. So again, go to Document, Listing Extras, and then Element ID Manager. Okay. So here, make sure the element type is column. Since we have selected the element type column only, so it's column, and you need to set unique ID for each element here. If it is set in the previous option, set same ID by criteria, just change it to unique ID for each element. So we need not bother about the criteria here because we are going to set unique ID for each element and then go to the ID format here. So in the ID format, we have the number of characters option. So for that we can give the first one is 1. So I can make this as C. Okay. So the second one, I give the number of characters as 2, and then I give a counter here. Or maybe I can have 1 and then have a hyphen here. Okay. Something like this. If you can see the preview, C01. So the counter is number 2. The third option I'm not using. So I just choose not used. And then the counter 01. Okay. So this is for the first one. So if I click change IDs, you can see, so all the IDs are unique for every column here, which are on the first story now. Okay. So I'm just clicking cancel for now. So say for example, if I want to add the story number here. Okay. So I just make this text and this one as hyphen and this one as C. And if I want to have a story number 1, that is 1 here, I can choose 1. So 1C hyphen 01. Okay. So we can customize the element ID of the components based on your company standards or your local standard. Okay. Just click OK. So now I can check the element ID for each column. So this one is having 1C01. The other one is having 1C07. This one is 1C02. So each column has got unique ID now using the element ID manager. All right. So now I've set the element ID, so I can just place the markers for each column here. Okay. So again, I need to go to the label tool and then I will choose the label from here. So here I'm going to choose column tag label, which is showing the marking and GK and QK, which is the load shown. Okay. So I select the column. You can see it is showing C1 GK 100 and QK 100. All right, if you want to change the settings, you can go here to the select the label and then go to the settings and then change the information that you want to see here. Okay, so if I want to have the element ID, I'll just select ID on the first option, first row. You can see the element ID is displayed. All right, so this is manual way of placing, but again, I'll choose to place all the labels for all the columns here. Again, choose all the column, click Control A. You have selected all the columns here. Go to Document, Annotations, Label Selected Elements. Okay, now you can see all the columns got placed, but you can see that all are C1 because it is using a different property here. So for that, I'm again selecting all the labels. Okay, so I'm going to the labels here, and then in the column first row, I'm just choosing ID. Okay, and then click OK. So you can see the unique IDs of each column are displayed on the labels. So if you want to change the GK and QK value of the column, just select the column and go to the settings. Under classification and properties, you will have GK and QK property. Okay, here if you change the value, so for example, if I make it 150 and then 120, and then click OK. You can see the value get automatically changed on the label. Okay, so this way you can edit the information that is shown on the label. But if you want to show any other information on the label, just select the label and go to the settings, and then you can select the options that are available here. Okay, and then click OK. So now we have set the labels for columns. We will try to place the labels for beams also. Okay, so for that I'm going to the second story. I have beams here, which is the steel beam again. So now I'm going to assign unique ID for each beam. So if I select this, you can see the ID is beam 01 for this. And I think for everything is beam 01. Okay. So for now, I'm going to select all the beams here. Select the beam tool and then click Control A. All the beams got selected, but I just wanted the horizontal beams. Vertical beams I'll do later. So I just click Shift key and then deselect my vertical beams. All right. So only now the horizontal beams got selected. Go to Document, Listing Extra, Element ID Manager. So make sure the element type is beam and then the unique ID for each element is selected. Go to ID format. So again here, if you want to show the story here, or you can show it. Here I just give the text as 2 number of characters and then give a vertical beam, horizontal beam HB, and then a hyphen here. Or if you don't want to have an hyphen, just give not used and then the counter here starting from 0 1. Okay, so if I click change IDs, you can see all the beams, horizontal beams got an unique ID. So click OK. So similarly, I just wanted to select the vertical beams. So I'm just selecting all those and then go to Document, Listing Extras, Element ID Manager. So again in the ID format, instead of horizontal beam, I give vertical beam. Okay, and click change IDs. You can see all the IDs got assigned to the individual beams. And then click OK. So now all the beams got individual IDs. You can see here one vertical beam 03 now it is. Okay, so now I can place the labels. Again, go to the label tool under document in the toolbar and then select the beam for beam tag. Okay, so I'm using by element ID showing the width and height of the beam. Okay, so select this and then choose the beam. So you can see the ID with its dimension is also shown here. So this is manual way of placing, but if you want to do some changes, any changes here, just select the label and go to the label settings, and then you can change do the changes here. Okay, so the custom settings will allow us to change the information that is shown in the label. Okay, so I just will delete this for now and then place the labels automatically for all beams. Okay, so I select all the beams. Now that I've assigned all the IDs for each beam, so I can go ahead and select all the beams, both vertical and horizontal, and then go to Document, Annotations, Label Selected Elements. So you can see all the beams is showing its element ID along with the dimensions. So now if you want to move the labels above a bit above the beams on the layout, just select all the labels. So select the label tool and click Control A and then go to the settings. Now I have selected all the labels. I'm going to the settings. So inside the text style, you have an option here in the end to give the dimension here. So I'm giving a 2 mm dimension. And you can see it got displaced a bit 2 mm above the beams. Okay, the 2 mm is based on the scale that you select here. Okay. All right. So 2 mm into 100 will become 200. So it moves 200 mm. So it's always based on the scale that you select here. So you should be careful with that. All right. So now we have placed our dimensions, I mean the labels and also the dimensions. If I go to the story one, we have the labels for slabs, columns, and the dimensions around it. On the story two, I have beam. So in this way, we have to set up the layouts. We have to create all the layouts with the necessary information. And now if I want to have a detail, so if I have to create a detail inside my layout, so I just create a detail for this connection here. So I just move this a bit. So using the pet palette, you can adjust and then move it aside depending on the need. Okay. So now I'm going to create a detail, but for creating detail, there are multiple ways. So I'll show the first way where if at all you have the detail in your DWG drawing or in your PDF. Say for example, if you're getting this detail from an external source in the form of PDF or a DWG drawing, so I'll show how to do the detailing. Okay. So for that, just go to the project map under details, right click and create new independent detail. Okay, so I just name this as 03 detail. Okay, and then click create. You can see a detail has been created, which is empty currently. I go to views and then I'm switching off the grid display, construction grid display. So now if I have a PDF, I can just simply select it and then drop it inside my project. Okay, so when I place it, if there are multiple pages inside it, you'll be asked to select the page in which you have the your detail. So I'll just select number 5 here and then place. Okay, so this has been placed, this page has been placed here. If you want to move it, you can use the pet palette options to move it aside. So now I'm going to trim this using the edge offset. I'm just trimming it. I only want this connection. So I'm removing all the other information from the page. Okay, so I will place a node here and then I will remove the sideline also. Okay, so now I've brought in my detail from the PDF. I can explode this. So for exploding, just right click and then explode into current view. Okay, so this explode into current view dialog box appears. You can choose the options here. When you are importing from the drawing, you can choose to use the drawings layer, or you can have layers from different source. You can import the layers from different source. So all this option you can choose. I'm choosing use uniform pens here and use uniform font, which is the Arial, which is the default one. So and click OK. You can see, yeah. So the view got exploded, and you can see all this, this or groups. Now I'll suspend the group, and if I want to edit anything here, we can just edit it. So for example, if I remove this one, I can just delete, and then if I edit this to DT0 D03, right? Detail. So I'm giving the name of the detail that I named. Okay. So here, this one currently is shown as an image, but if you're importing a DWG drawing, it will also be exploded as this, like this. So it will have fills and fills and lines. Okay. So but this since it is a PDF, it is coming as an image. But if it is a drawing, you can explode this to fills and lines, which can be edited also. Okay, so say for example, if I just want to edit this, I can use this option on the pet palette and then edit it. So I can delete also. All right, now that we have created a detail from the PDF, I'll go back to my layout. That is the GA plan. Okay, so now I have to place this detail here and then link it with this detail. Okay, so for that, go to the view. Under the viewpoint, we have detail tool. Okay, so this is the BCA template detail marker, but if you want to have other symbols also, we can create using the GSM, which is using the GDL objects. Okay, so I just choose this detail tool and then mark this detail. Now I want to show the layer and then click the extension and then place my detail here. Okay, okay, once we place this, you can see that it is linked to. Okay, I think before placing it, we need to select the option. Let me do it again. Choose the detail tool again. So here from the marker type, choose place linked marker. Okay, so when I choose place linked marker, um, okay, yeah. So when you choose the place linked marker, in the define marker reference, you need to select the detail that you want to link it with. Okay, so I'm selecting the detail just I created and click OK. Okay, now you can see the ID and the name automatically gets changed to the one that I created. And then you can create the detail and then place the detail here. Okay, so if I select the detail, and it is also showing the ID automatically to the one that is linked to, and right click and open with current view settings, it automatically goes to that layout, I mean that detail. Okay, so this is one way of creating details where we bring in the detail from a PDF or from a DWG drawing. On the other hand, if you want to create your own detail, you can do that also. So I'll just show it here. Detail tool. You need to choose create a new detail viewpoint. Okay, so you are free to enter ID and the name here. So I just leave it to default and then choose the connection where I want to show it as a detail and then place the detail marker. So if I open this and open with current view settings by right clicking, you can see this option here. You can see the detail here. Okay, so in this model, since this is a structural model, there is no finishes. But if in case if you are working on an integrated model, so in that case, let me just for some time just choose entire model in partial structural display, and then I will change this wall, these walls to be composite walls. Okay, and then I choose core inside. Okay, so again, if I go to the same detail and then click rebuild from source view and then choose entire model, rebuild from source view, yeah, you can see the finishes also. Okay, so if you don't want to see the finishes, just choose core for load bearing elements only, even if you're working on the integrated model. Okay, so for now yeah, I can just choose it and then click rebuild. The finishes will be gone. But if in case you don't want to choose this core of load bearing elements only, but if you want to remove the finishes, you can do it manually. So just suspend the group and then you can see the finishes can be deleted. You can just select and click delete. Okay, so if you want to uh, show the connection here, say for example, just expand this. Okay, I will just remove the fills for now. I will show the connection. So you can manually draw the connection here. So in this way, you can show the connection. And if you want to show the, like say for example, if you want to show the break lines, just go to the object tool here, go to the library, and go to the GSSG structural library that comes along with this template. Go to the geometric symbol, graphic symbols, and then click break line. Okay, so if you see here, it's currently on this direction. I just wanted to change it to my direction. All right, so and then click OK. I can place it somewhere here. Okay, so now I need to resize it to show the break line. Okay, similarly I can bring it along for this direction also. Just go to that and then rotate it and then place it here and then increase the size. You can show the break line also. So now if you want to show the details like reinforcements or the rebars, I can use the polyline or single line. I'm just using the polyline tool here. But before that, go to the pen sets and you need to select the thickness of the line that you want to draw. So for that, you can create your own pen set. Say for example, I'm here having the detail pen set, and, which is having different thickness for different pens that we choose. So I click OK and then choose the pen that I wanted to show here and then draw my reinforcement. So if I draw the reinforcement of the wall, I want to show the thickness, right? So for that, go to view, on-screen view options, and select true line weight. So you can see, I can see the thickness of the reinforcement. Okay. Similarly, I can choose, I can draw the connection reinforcements also. So I just select the polyline and then choose the reinforcement and I can draw the connections. Okay. So again, this one may not be the correct one. So I just choose the other pen set. Yeah. So this pen set is having a thickness. And if I want to have a fillet here, I can just have it from the pit palette, 20 radius, and click OK. All right. So in this way, we can create our own detail. Say, for example, I've created previously, I've created a detail. Let me show it here. So yeah, so we can create our own detail like this, and then you can place the labels to show the dimension, like the diameter of the rebar, the spacing between them, all that can be shown as labels here. Okay, so we can also show the in situ concrete using the fills. So this is how we can create the details. All right, so the first method is to create the details based on the DWG file or the PDF that you bring in. The other one is to create by yourself. Okay, so this one we have to create the detail manually and then link the marker that we are placing with this detail. So the other one is just place the marker and from there we open the view, and then from there inside there we can draw it. Okay, so like this we can prepare our layout and then place it inside the layout book and then publish. I think publish we have shown last week, so you can just publish your drawings using the options in the publisher set. Okay, so I think that's all for now. Any questions? Let me go back to the slides. So these are our social media handles. Please follow us for more information. And as I told earlier, we have posted our previous recordings on our YouTube channel. You can just go and watch it if you have missed the previous sessions. And if you want any trainings need to be conducted for your team, you can contact us for Archicad basic training, advanced training, and the advanced documentation also. So this is the Learn portal. You can go there and register for the trainings there. Any questions? All right. Gary, you have any doubt? Update this again method detail, please. Readjust back to original. Okay, so if you want any of the lines back to original, readjust back to original, you can just right click, go to the detail. Okay, so you can just right click here and then rebuild from source view. So you can bring in all the details that automatically comes from the view, but the ones that you have modified will not be modified. Okay, so this is how you can bring back the original content to the detail. Yeah. So any
Hello
other
everyone.
question? Hello, Chinmay.
Now,
Yeah.
yeah, everything okay? Hello everyone.
So any other questions?
How do you do with drop slabs? How do you model drop slabs?
Okay.
So drop slabs normally model as actually we can add edges to the side, but we also can use morph tool to model. Morph tool is actually allows you to adjust the shape. The drop part you can actually or add it actually, right? So you can show the morph tool. Yeah.
Okay.
So just draw it outside and show how do you draw the morph tool. Yeah.
So I'm giving a thickness of like 150 mm. And let me go to 3D. So using the pen option here, I can select the pen, and from where I want to have a drop, I can draw a line here to the other end. Okay. So now I can move only the side which I'm selecting using the pet palette option, and then I need to have the same I need to create the same line here and then move the bottom of the slab also. So for that, let me just choose Yeah. So you can draw something like this.
For example, it drops. Well, sometimes if you use a morph, right? If you do a composite slab, then there's a lot of things you have to move, isn't it? Is that the right way to do it?
Okay, for composite slab, it's actually you have finishes separately, and uh, basically here is structural model, so we are focusing on the concrete part only, right? So you won't have the finishes. So at the moment, for the drop slab, is one option is to do with a MARF, right? So the other option is if it is straightforward like this, you also can draw a cross-sectional profile with finished layers and all those things, and you can extrude it, and you can do that. So it's kind of like workaround. Yeah, you can come up with different options. You can try. Depends on the situation how it is going to be there. Yeah. So it's from Gary, right? The question is from Gary. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So did I answer your question, Gary? Yeah.
Uh, uh, yes. But sometimes when we do a slab where we want to also make sure that some of the quantity of the finishes are there, so
Mm.
we always do like a hole and then do another slab. But that, of
And
course,
you
is not the
make it
correct way of
thicker.
doing it.
It's not right. Yeah. It's not right way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really depends on the situation and how you want to get it. Yeah.
Yeah. Will they improve on this tool to
We
do a slab?
will.
That means it will automated it. It will be
Yeah.
automated during the
Uh,
thickening of the side wall.
yeah. Yeah. We will take in as a feedback, and then we will bring
Mm,
back to our product management team. Thanks for the
sure.
feedback. In a sense. Yeah. So we will do that. Any other questions from anyone?
Uh, Currently the beam tool, right, doesn't have
Yeah.
any finishes, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
It's
so to do finishes, we're going to use a profile to do
yeah.
the
Yeah.
finish, is it?
Yeah.
All right.
You had to use the profile there.
Unlike the column, you do have an option
Option
to
to
put in the
enable
finish.
the thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So we
But
had
of
to use
course,
the
the option tool in the column, you only have one option to select what is the um,
yeah.
plastering, for example, but you cannot indicate the paint work, isn't it?
Yeah, different thickness or different things you cannot set. I also prefer to, if there is a
Use
case, I
profile,
also
right?
prefer to use the profile. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, one more question. If an engineer use
Yeah.
Archicad as a tool to assist in the modeling part, right?
Mm,
Does it mean the engineer have to buy a whole complete package, whole complete Archicad?
mm.
There
Uh,
isn't one Archicad just for engineers.
Actually, Archicad is if it doesn't have a discipline specific tool, it is all still the same, right? So and uh, we won't have like some of the other tools they are doing it. They sell at a different price for different things. It is not actually. So you need to have the full Archicad. Yeah.
Yeah, but engineer won't be able to use things like rendering,
Yeah.
animation and stuff
Yeah.
like that because those are additional tools which they don't need.
So there is a
So mm, go ahead.
yeah, yeah. Basically, they don't do like rendering on walkthrough and all those things, but there are certain features we have also architect don't use, right? So that's how it is at the moment, right? So it is a single architect. The pricing is actually done as no, we try to keep the price as low as possible in the sense to make it affordable for everyone.
So the engineer can actually use solo, isn't it? But they just can't do teamwork solo.
Uh, but solo doesn't have teamwork. Yeah, that's why I
Yeah,
don't mention that. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's just that the engineer, if they want to collaborate, of course they can't use, but they can actually
Yeah.
do the work in solo,
Mm.
and the collaboration may happen in another
I
platform,
see.
perhaps, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but we need to get approval to get solo and all those things. So at the moment, solo is not uh, available in this market. So we need to check whether it is available or not before. That's why I didn't mention that. So we have to see how, because full suite is still better. The teamwork is like most of our engineers we have at the moment try to work on a single model with the architect so they can use the architectural model. So for that, teamwork is essential, right?
Right.
And, there is a question on the chat, JYM. While modeling architectural walls, how do you differentiate between using internal or external? What is the difference between them? Actually, there is a property in the setting called position, so you can use that. Yeah.
Under classification properties, inside ID and categories, we have position, exterior or interior. Choose it.
JYM. Is that answer your question? Yeah.
For the correct way to model, right? Do you model the slab to the outer edge of the beam or to the inner side of the beam?
Actually, if you want the actual thing, you have to model to until the outer edge. Because of the material priority, it will automatically cut the slab
Hmm.
inside. So it will take care of that part. So the material will not be physically there. Normally, beams material will be higher priority than the slabs material. Did I answer your question, Gary?
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you.